Hello, and welcome to my bedroom. Happy Valentine's Day and happy Black History Month. When I wrote American Alien for DC Comics, I switched some races of characters. I made Lois Lane half Japanese, and I made Jimmy Olsen black and gay. Now, no one really questioned this. People have often commented on ginger characters being replaced by black characters, and Lois Lane, I feel, is such a kind of blur to people in a lot of ways that I could kind of get away with sharpening the image of her. Similarly, in the Kryptonian epic, I've switched several characters' races. Why would I do this? The Kryptonian epic is just for my YouTube. It's something I'm making with my own money. Why am I pandering and being woke? Well, I'm not. I've always really believed that race, like all other things in fiction, can be used to tell part of a story. Certain characters I've written in my career as a screenwriter, like Steve from Chronicle, or Farah from Dirk Gently, or Ken from Dirk Gently, these are African-American characters where the best actor for the role won the role. None of these characters were written as black. It was determined by both me and the various other producers and directors of these projects that it didn't matter what color Steve was in Chronicle. It just didn't. And if you look at Michael B. Jordan's career since Chronicle, I think you'll agree we made a pretty good call. We weren't trying to have a black guy in the movie. He was just young Michael B. Jordan. Come on, you're going to watch that edition and go, no, that's bad? I don't think so. Similarly, in Dirk, Umpo and Jade were just the best actors for the roles. Ken kind of got this sinister element I really liked that Umpo brought to the character and ended up defining that character's storyline on Dirk in my mind. The writer, the actor did that. But the Kryptonian epic doesn't have actors. So why is the Joker black? Why is Jimmy Olsen black? Why is the Blue Beetle black? Why isn't Black Manta black? What is going on? Well, I actually have thought about this a lot, and people have brought it up to me a lot, especially after I posted that Jimmy video. Have you guys not read American Alien? Jimmy's been black and gay since 2015. I made these characters black for specific reasons, and I thought it would be really fun to just have an opportunity. This is my YouTube. No one's interviewing me about it. People asked me about it. Why are these people black? Why is this PC recasting? You made the Blue Beetle black, man. Like that. They weren't being dicks about it, but they want to know why. There's a why. Here's why. So for me, Jimmy Olsen being black is obvious. This is a guy who is peripheral to Superman regularly. And my version of Jimmy Olsen basically created in the public consciousness the idea of superheroes and supervillains as a real thing. That was Jimmy and Lois Lane that did that. Jimmy referring to Harvey Dent, Two-Face, as a super criminal changed everything, because Jimmy was talking about the way Harvey was being treated as a celebrity rather than a terrorist. Now, this made sense because if you watch my Jimmy Olsen video, you know Jimmy has always been fascinated with identity. He is an extremely gay guy. He's the level of gay, you know when you meet little kids and you're like, this little kid is gay? That's Jimmy. And he was like that and adopted and black growing up in Oklahoma. This guy's ideas about identity and the types of interactions he's had with people, because no matter what political party you're in, I don't care if you're a white supremacist or you live on a fucking ashram, you can acknowledge that certain people on this planet treat you radically different if you are a different color or a different sexual orientation. I think we can agree that Jimmy's life was pretty hard via elements he couldn't control. But Jimmy's artistic drive to heal the pain of a world that left him feeling alienated and small led him to drawing everyone else into this narrative. And Jimmy existed in a media sphere at the time where the fucking Batman had started to exist. So it was sort of an inevitable thing of this person struggling with their identity, coming sort of right head on into the world of superheroes and supervillains. That's why Jimmy's black, to make him an alien in his own hometown. I just thought it was an interesting way to do it. Plus, I think there's something really striking about an extremely well-dressed, fashionable black gay man just covered in ash and blood, getting a picture of Firefly as Firefly explodes out the side of a building and Jimmy goes, with no care for his own life, only to document what's happening. Garfield! Garfield Lynn's Firefly! Down here for the shot! I mean, Jimmy fucking Olsen. So why is a Joker black? I've talked a lot about my black Joker, that he's actually a guy named Aaron Scott, who, noticing the trend of superheroes and supervillains, decided it would be interesting to become the Joker. Aaron is very different from previous versions of the Joker, and also exactly the same as all of them, because he does impressions of the various different Jokers throughout history as he tries to sort of decide what version of the character will get the most attention. So yeah, the Joker in my world isn't the Joker. He's an artist and an actor playing the Joker. Now, Aaron, the guy behind the Joker character, I actually released a whole short script about him. You can find in the description of this video, just sort of how he works, to see the idea in action, how a fake Joker sort of plays out. The problem is, a fake Joker is just as dangerous as a real Joker because he's doing all the same shit. He's just not doing it because he's kooky crazy or an anarchist or a bad gangster or some badass sexy criminal or even a lunatic or even Grant Morrison's idea that he's post-sane. Aaron Scott is committing mass murder and destabilizing Western culture because he thinks it's interesting. This is a black kid from a good family on the East Coast. His father is a lawyer. His mother is a doctor. His grandparents were like old money from England. They were like British black people who like came over in the 50s. This guy has never lived in a house with less than 6 bedrooms. And now he's putting on homeless people clothes and blowing up orphanages. Fuck Aaron Scott. The reason he's black is because there hasn't been a black Joker. What's the most defining aspect of the Joker? His white skin. So for my Joker, a fake Joker, the white skin has to be fake. The laugh is fake. It's all fake. The only thing Aaron Scott does that's real are the murders. This guy views international media as a fucking Tumblr account for his art, and his art is chaos. So Aaron is actually one of those guys where him being black doesn't make as much of like a political statement. It's more of a functional, this is the Joker, but it's not the Joker. I want Aaron Scott to be his own character. And the things he does and the way his story goes, I need him to be different from previous Jokers. Now we come to Ted Kord, the Blue Beetle, a character I have deliberately avoided explaining thus far in pitches. I've just repeatedly been like, and the Blue Beetle is there. He's in this. And that's because I have a whole illustrated story I'm gonna put out probably next week, telling the full story of the Blue Beetle. I might even do a video on that here. But Ted Kord is a black conservative. He also, when we meet him, is turning 40. He's overweight. He's basically like Carl Winslow. Teddy bear of a guy, very depressed black guy from Chicago who moved to a city called Bloodhaven because basically Ted's whole life, his dad was an alcoholic and he had a single dad who's just fucking crazy, always yelling. Ted ended up being very quiet and withdrawn. He would eat a lot. He loved to do puzzles and games, but he was too socially anxious to deal with the other kids in his neighborhood. On top of that, the other kids in his neighborhood were majority white in the neighborhood in Chicago he lived in. So he felt a little exiled there too. You basically have this guy who at home feels scared of a person and out in the world feels scared of every person. So he's lost. He's lost. He basically never dated. He graduated high school with middling grades, became very depressed. His father had been in the military, so Ted thought he would join the police force in Bloodhaven, only to discover that the police force in Bloodhaven was a corrupt enterprise at such a level that it could be considered a criminal organization. Internal affairs in the Bloodhaven PD had been taken over by a guy named Dudley Soames. Soames was a psychopath, and he was installed by a local criminal called Blockbuster. Blockbuster had become fascinated with the idea of the Batman in Gotham and begun to give himself an experimental steroid that worked on a genetic level that he'd gotten from LexCorp. What's going on with LexCorp manipulating DNA? Something weird. Anyway, what internal affairs going dirty meant was that essentially Dudley Soames was able to reverse internal affairs, the entire police department. These weren't cops anymore in the traditional sense. He was drafting guys who had been dishonorably discharged from other forces all over America. Gotham's across the bay. Batman's over there. In Bloodhaven, the police aren't even the police. And you better hope you don't have to dial 911. Ted's miserable. He's alone on the force again. And Soames, his superior, is openly racist because he can be. And Ted is such a shy guy that he's now moved through 3 decades without achieving anything meaningful. He lives in the same apartment his dad lived in when they moved to Bloodhaven. His dad died. He's still in that apartment. Jesus God. Ted's life is at a standstill. He's terrified of his boss. He's miserable at home. And then one day he answers a noise complaint in East Bloodhaven. And there he discovers a man named Dan Garrett, his body mostly eaten by cats. The old man's corpse lies in an apartment that clearly belonged to a hoarder. Dozens of newspaper clippings about an inventor named Lucius Fox who had become the CEO of Wayne Tech, about a man named Barry Allen, about a man named Victor Fries. Apparently the old man had been keeping track of all of these people, most of them scientists, all of them in some way associated with LexCorp or Wayne Tech. Ted was about to call it in. Really, he was. He's a good cop. He was going to call it in. It's a dead body. The bookcase slid aside, revealing a fire pole. He slid down the fire pole. This is a guy who's 215 pounds, fucking 5'6", slid down this fire pole. He couldn't stop himself. He had to know there was a blue light. And as he went into the belly of this brownstone, the rotting, crumbling, deteriorating, gothic nightmare of ugly, ugly Bloodhaven, he discovered the walls painted blue. And in a chamber hidden beneath the building in the sewer, an advanced aircraft in a suit of armor far beyond any technology had by any military anywhere in the world. You see, years ago, this guy Dan Garrett had been contracted by a small tech subsidiary of Wayne Corp to design an assault vehicle that could be completely stealth and an armor suit with strictly non-lethal capabilities. Dan Garrett was fired from this project, but he became obsessed with the idea. The Blue Beetle. A superhero, a real one. Dan could build it. Ted found he had just inherited one of the most powerful legacies on Earth. How Ted chooses to play that, I'll save for the Blue Beetle video, because basically what unfolds is something closer to a crime epic. It's more like The Wire than it is like The Boys. More The S.H.I.E.L.D., less Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but basically Ted becomes a police reform revolutionary. The fact that he's a black conservative, which, you know, I can't think of a black conservative lead superhero character, who then goes on to essentially completely rehabilitate and restructure a police force and then the infrastructure of a city, and then becomes an international hero and icon. Ted's so cool because he's a systems guy. He's in the system. He's a fucking cop. He's Colin Powell. But instead of going outside the system the way almost every other superhero does, Ted works it from the inside. And he wins. For a long time. He wins. It was important to me that Ted be black because I liked the alienation of being this schlubby, invisible, uniformed cop who's fat, he's unseen to a racist like Dudley Soames. Soames should have looked a little harder. Although, no matter how hard he had looked, I don't think it would have stopped the concrete from destroying his body as he hit it at 70 miles an hour. Oh, and the Black Manta isn't black. That's because he originally wasn't black, and also because I have kind of really cool ideas involving the representation of traditional law enforcement in the Kryptonian epic universe. You know, you have James Gordon, you have Ted, and then you have Stephen Shin, a character called the Black Manta, who's very important in At the Depths of Madness, which is Aquaman's story, which I'm not going to tell you any of, because it's fucking animated in the Kryptonian epic. Anyway, that's why those characters are black.